There is a myth about a terribly cruel and unnecessary experiment carried out on frogs. Although gruesome, it gives us a valuable lesson in why change is so important. In the experiment, a frog was put into a bowl of hot water. The frog's reaction was to immediately jump out, and because they escaped so quickly, they recovered well and survived the experience. This was because the frog's skin could immediately sense that it was in trouble and escape. In a separate experiment, a frog was placed into cool water and the water was slowly heated up. In this case, as the water got hotter and hotter, the frog did not jump out, and by the time the water was too hot for the frog, all its energy had gone and it did not escape. The result? Frog soup. It turns out that a frog cannot sense a gradual change in temperature. This gives us a valuable lesson in why making change is so important. In day-to-day life, the water is rarely hot, and changes in our business environment happen gradually. As a business, we need to prepare for this gradual change by changing more quickly than the environment around us, by making sense of what is going on and moving on before the water gets too hot. Good business sense is to steer out of the way of danger well in advance, when the changes in the environment have only just appeared on the horizon. So, why do businesses need to change? Well, the world is changing all the time. If your business is not in a constant state of change, we may not be ready for the challenges and opportunities of the future. In the 90s, everyone had a Nokia phone. But what happened when Apple released the iPhone? Nokia failed to keep up with its business environment. Result? Frog soup. Consider this. What is the primary purpose of your role? Is it to make drugs or chemicals? Or is it to make money for the business? It makes sense for a business to do things that will sustain profit over time and do things that will save costs, save money. This is a challenge for any business, and by the way, our customers are working in the same changing environment. So that is why change is happening. But how can you use this to your advantage? How can you use change to grow your skills? One reason we react to change is that it affects something that is important to us. This may be our livelihood, this may be our health, or it may be that it affects how we feel about ourselves in some way. There are two key reactions to change: pleasure and pain. The amount of pleasure and pain experienced is directly linked to your personal level of control in the situation and how important the outcome is to you. So, if you have no control and something is really important to you, you are likely to be confused, frustrated, and angry. If something is really important to you and you have total control, this is more likely to make you feel happy and feel good. The truth is, of course, we rarely have total control. Even where we control the change that is happening to us, we can feel uncomfortable with the outcome. To really thrive on change, we must put things in place to manage the control in the situation. Let's think about how this may work. Be curious. Don't wait for people to tell you something. Go and find out. People who thrive on change are curious. We can all be curious. Take your personal curiosity out of its box and use it. Ask questions. And if people don't want to share information with you yet, accept that they're still trying to work out what the change may mean, and offer your support. Scan the environment. So you can prepare for change, keep up to date with the business environment. Maintain a network of contacts and show an interest in what is happening in the world around you, and consider how this may impact the business. Watch what other businesses are doing. By being aware of new developments in our industry and in other industries, this can help us think about our own ideas for business improvement. Share your ideas early. If you're working on an idea, share it early. Don't keep it to yourself. Ask other people for their input. Sometimes we don't do this because we find it hard to influence people or to say no. Remember, just because someone has an opinion about their own work or your work, this does not make them correct. But if you know their opinion and you know their concerns, you can work around these. By involving people, not only do you get valuable feedback, but you also find out what others may object to. And by the way, you get some great ideas. If you collaborate with others, it takes more time at the outset, but it saves time at implementation because people are already aware of the idea and mostly on board. Share your feelings early. When we don't have control over the change, we're likely to feel confused, frustrated and angry. These feelings don't just go away because we suppress them. They need to find a way out. And it's better to let these out at the beginning of a change rather than at the end. At the beginning, people will still take your feelings into account and you may be able to influence things. At the end, you may find yourself more frustrated, and this can leak as inappropriate and unprofessional behaviour and comments. So, share how you feel early. You don't have to play out your feelings, you can just describe them. Rather than behaving confused, explain calmly that you are finding the change confusing. Rather than showing frustration, explain that you feel frustrated and try to explain what is causing the frustration. Rather than being angry, explain calmly that you're feeling uncomfortable with what is happening. Find a safe way to vent. When we experience change, we often have strong emotions. So, find a trusted colleague who understands your work scenario to talk to. Explain that you need to vent. Find a private space and let it all out. Don't leave the room until you feel that you are properly emptied. Your colleague may also be able to give you a reality check. We often experience strong emotions because we have a distorted view of reality. And then when you leave the room, leave the extreme feelings behind. Share control. You may have a great idea, but you cannot bring about change on your own. If you want people to change, don't tell them how, ask them how. Get the people you are trying to change involved from the outset. Get them to design the process that they will be running. It is still your idea, but you will achieve much more by giving the people it impacts control of the development process. Be positive. Everything has an upside. Find it. Talk about it. This all sounds very simple. So how come it doesn't work like that? Well, let me tell you an ancient story about a farmer and his horse. One day the farmer's horse runs away, and his neighbour comes over and says, "I'm so sorry about your horse." And the farmer says, "Who knows what is good or bad?" The neighbour is confused because this is clearly terrible. The horse is the most valuable thing he owns. But the next day the horse comes back and brings with him 12 feral horses. The neighbour comes back over to celebrate. "Congratulations on your great fortune," he says. And the farmer replies again, "Who knows what is good or bad?" The next day, the farmer's son is taming one of the wild horses, and he's thrown, and he breaks his leg. The neighbour comes back over. "I'm so sorry about your son," he says, and the farmer repeats, "Who knows what is good or bad?" Sure enough, the next day the army comes through their village and is conscripting able-bodied young men to go and fight in war. But the son is spared because of his broken leg. When we experience change, we tend to focus heavily on the bad, particularly if we lack control. In worse cases, this can become all-consuming and get into something known as catastrophizing. When we catastrophize, we only see the bad and we distort reality to make everything bad. We moan and groan, we wallow in misery and self-pity, and we bring everyone down with us. In a well thought out project or plan, there is rarely a bad underlying intention. Most of the time, people just don't communicate effectively, and we assume the worst. We speak around 78,000 sentences in our own heads every day. This is called self-talk. A lot of our experience and reaction to change is happening in our heads. If you're having negative thoughts, don't wallow in them for too long. Give them a bit of space, but then make yourself move on. Like treating a spot on your skin. Treat it, then start healing. Find a balance. Force yourself to think of the positives for you and others. Remember, there is nothing wrong with identifying an obstacle to success. See what we called it there? Not a problem, an obstacle. There's always a way around an obstacle, and you can help the person leading the change to find it. Be an agent of change. People who thrive on change create change themselves. In any business, we are always looking for ways to make money at the least cost. In a successful business, this is viewed in the long term, and new ideas in change must be sustainable. So with the long term in mind, how can you improve your business process? What change would you recommend? As a manager, we expect you to encourage your team to come up with business improvements. As an employee, we expect you to be looking for business improvements and share your knowledge of the business environment with others to help with change. Change doesn't happen in a vacuum. While you are changing one thing, the world doesn't stop. So, once you've completed one change project, you should already be looking for the next. Remember, be more like the farmer and less like the frog.